He who is often reproved, yet stiffens his neck, will suddenly be broken beyond healing.
Ooh.
This one's a little bit more subtle.
Well, go on then. Give me your take.
Well, in some ways, it feels a shame to explain everything. I will give some thoughts.
I know,
on this,
but I don't want to do all the talking.
What I want to encourage for people is they're almost like puzzles. Some of them are obvious. They're like starter level puzzles, and there's value in those. But some of them, you get them out of the box and you grapple with them, and it's in the solving it that the enjoyment comes. So. He who is often reproved yet stiffens his neck will suddenly be broken beyond healing. Can you think of a more common proverb that we have in English that talks about the fact that sometimes you can slowly add problems and there comes a sudden breaking point?
Oh, the straw that breaks the camel's back.
The straw, yes. Exactly. So I think this is the same kind of proverb as that. It's saying that you can't just assume you can continually make life difficult for somebody. There will come a moment at which they break.
Yeah.
So now,
and I tell you what, I hate to say it, but this is the problem of the school shooter, isn't it? And remember who was the guy who went on the shooting that brought the young. What's the guy?
I don't think I'm going to remember.
Oh, there's the young kid who became the anti-gun activist. David Hogg. Yeah, there was a girl who a Mexican girl who was in the same school. I can't remember her name either offhand, I'm afraid. But she had said that the kid who went on the shooting, she'd done a speech, and I saw a clip of the speech where she had said they had essentially bullied and ostracized this kid because he was bad, and they didn't like him for whatever reason because kids are cruel. And she was pleading with the audience to understand that we had to bully him, we had to ostracize him, we had to do this. It's like, yeah, but look what happened. He went on a school shooting. If you maybe been a little bit more kind, maybe not so many straws on the camel's back, maybe he wouldn't have snapped, and maybe this could have been prevented. And that's what that says to me.
What now? There's one pair in Proverbs. Often the Proverbs come as a double. So it will say something, and then it will say the inverse. So do A and B will happen. Don't do A and B won't happen. Or it will say the same idea using synonyms twice to just kind of reinforce. But there's one really interesting one which essentially says first, answer a fool according to his folly. And then it says, don't answer a fool according to his folly.
Right, okay.
I feel like this is an example of a master level proverb, which you really have to
I can see there's a puzzle here.
Yes. So rather than just immediately answering with my interpretation, what comes to mind as your first thoughts? Why would it say... I mean, this isn't an example of where you find two verses in the Bible that are in different books that contradict.
No, they're right next to each other.
Dead next to each other.
Right. So answer a fool according to his folly, and then don't answer a fool according to his folly.
Yes.
So I suppose the first one is saying, well, don't throw the pearls before the swine. If you're going to speak to a fool, at least speak to him on his own level so he can understand you. But the second one probably meaning you're wasting your time, so don't bother at all.
Yes. I think that's pretty good. And what does this tell you about Proverbs in general? But as opposed to rules, if you were going to just be given a set of robotic things to... Oh, my phone's interjecting into the conversation.
I wonder what your phone had to say. No, it's fine. Well, the maxims that you're given are for you to decide when to apply.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you have a reason to answer a fool, at least do it in a way that the fool understands, so the fool can at least gain something from what you're doing. But generally, you probably don't have a reason to answer a fool, so don't.
So
what's your interpretation?
I think the point of a lot of these proverbs is you should grow in your personal ability to understand the world, to know patterns that work well, but actually applying them does require you to continue to engage your brain. Like these are just giving you... It's like having... think of sitting at the feet of a wise person and drinking in just pure discernment. And then once you're able to go out into the world and pattern match, you can say, oh, this reminds me of that proverb. But not every proverb should be executed like a robot. Like
no, they're not computer code.
They're not computer code.
They're just maxims for you to live with perspicuity.
Yes. And a lot of it is repetition. Go over it again and again. You can't just download it onto your hard drive of you. That's not how humans work. You need to be drenched in these.
Yeah. You're sort of habituating yourself into a worldview, a lens, so you frame the world and you understand, hang on a second, what am I looking for? Am I identifying the fools? Am I identifying the wise men? Am I preparing myself for the hurdles that are going to come in advance?
Yeah.
That's what this is.
I don't think we can talk about Proverbs without at some point mentioning Proverbs 31, which I think is a beautiful, amazing description of the type of woman. In this case, it's the type of wife that the mother is recommending for her son to go out and find.
Right, well, you can't get better advice than that, can you?
Yeah, it's really amazing. So I'll give you some samples.
Yeah.
So it starts with, an excellent wife, who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of his life. Now, a lot of people will be surprised with some of the details about what this woman is like.
I've read this. I read this before you came over.
Did you? Yeah.
Because I was scanning through it, and this happened to be one that caught my eye. Initially, the initial framing there is she has to be devoted to her husband and trustworthy.
Yeah,
he has to be able to rely on her and commit to her with everything and know that she's a rock on which he can depend. Which, and the reverse also goes the other way, of course. He has to do the same. But so that's very good framing. I think that's very excellent framing, and I think the mother's right to say this is a rare thing.
Yeah,
and even more rare in these days. I dare say it was a lot less rare back in the days of Solomon. But good luck with that now, lads.
Yes. Oh, well.
And I mean, good luck.
So let's see what else she gets up to.
Yes.
She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She's like the ships of merchants, and she brings in her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maiden. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hand, she plants a vineyard.
So she's not lazy and oppressed by patriarchy. She's very active.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, she's very. She's got a lot to do.
It's crazy that this text existed before even third wave feminism had come around to allow this woman to exist.
How can she be allowed to buy a field? I thought women couldn't own property.
Apparently, not only, but the king is being advised to find such a woman as his wife, and she buys it with her own money that she's generated from her productivity. And then she dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong.
Yeah.
So even physically, she's a force to be reckoned with.
But it just goes to show you that the narrative of the third wave feminists and beyond, it's just not true, and it's not how people saw themselves.
Yeah.
Women saw themselves. I mean, the mother is saying, "Oh, look, you are the partner of your husband. You've both got," and go back 2,000-3,000 years, and life scarcity is a lot more common, and so. Acting as if there are abundant resources at all times and life isn't a struggle to get the necessary resources to have a successful household. It takes two,
Yes.
it's an investment from both people. Because obviously the assumption behind all of this is that the husband is also working in the household and outside of the household and doing his part. And it suddenly gives you a much deeper conception of what a relationship is meant to be.
Yes. And this is not the perhaps Victorian notion of a fainting woman who is weak and just subdues herself to the situation.
And it's important to note that's a very Victorian England notion.
Yes,
that's not like a widely shared notion of what a woman should be anywhere else in the world,
or
in any other time period.
Right. If you were born under the reign of Queen Victoria, you wouldn't need a time machine. You just need a boat to find a different opinion.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And but even then, like I was reading all the Robin Hood poems a few years ago, and one of the most fascinating ones was it wasn't about Robin Hood, but it was about two of his merry men. I can't remember which ones now, but they're not the famous ones, and they essentially get chased out of a town by the sheriff of that town, and they have to sneak back in, and the chap goes to find his wife who's maintaining the household. He's like, right, I'm in trouble with the sheriff. So the wife gets a sword or something. He's like, right, okay, let's do this. And it's like, again, not the, but that was just, there was nothing in the story that implied that was unusual or surprising. It was just what a wife would be expected to do with, for fidelity for her husband. And, she's competent, she's capable, she's strong. It's not this Victorian inferior woman perspective or anything, and so it's just very interesting how, like, somehow we're trapped in a culture that assumes that that's the ancient way of doing things, but that's not the ancient way of doing things.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of cases where ancient wisdom is being rediscovered, but presented as if it's a new progression. And in fact, what we're doing is we're returning.
Well, no, I mean, that could sound like a feminist tract. How could a feminist could embrace that and say, well, look, this is empowering for a woman, isn't it? Well, yeah.
But the difference to me is that the woman here is also not seen as ruling over the man.
That's true.
They are cooperating. They're both. So it talks about at the beginning how she does him good, and then at the end we see how he is at the gate talking about how fantastic she is, and he's also supporting her. There's this back and forth in this.
Well, should we go for the end?
Yeah, let's read a little bit towards the end. So, strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. Like, isn't that what a fantastic way to an attitude to have in life?
Yeah.
We can be so anxious about. I mean, certainly today we could imagine the ways things might go, but just to be so carefree because you've sorted yourself out that you can
be confident about the future.
Yeah, you've got that inner strength.
And if there's one thing that I think that modern women don't have, it's a confidence in the future. And doesn't it even mention something about that the time is short or something?
I don't know about time is short. I did skip a little bit of it where it talks about that she's prepared the house. It actually describes how that she's clothed her household in scarlet, and her clothing is fine linen and purple, and that's the reason that she's so confident. It's right. Those signs of slight, wealth.
Success.
This is shopping at Waitrose, right?
Yeah, but scarlet, purple particularly, was very expensive back then.
Exactly.
But the point is, she works hard, she has a great relationship with her husband, and they have wealth and success. And the thing is, we can see the statistics on that now. Married couples have much more money than unmarried people. Yeah. It's just true.
She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. So she's not just practical. She's
bitter.
Bringing she's
got
bitter.
Tranquility in her heart.
Yeah. She looks well to the ways of her household, does not eat the bread of idleness, as we talked about. Yep. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates.
See, that's fantastic. If you commit to a solid family life, then you end up with happiness, pleasant children, a happy husband. You get all of the good things in life.
I think this is an exciting, glorious, amazing picture that we should be inspired by. I want my life to look like this.
Yes.
It's so easy for us these days to be dragged towards other directions. We see portrayed visions of the freedom of modern living that ultimately is foolish, and it looks fun, and it looks like what you want to be involved in. That's so seductive, like the pictures that we saw at the beginning when we were looking at Proverbs 7, the smells and the touch and the taste of it. You can be dragged in, but look at this picture. It's so delightful. Anybody who really stops and thinks about it would say,
so wholesome.
I want my life to end up like that, not like the things I'm being offered by the adulterous woman. Yeah. And I think we shouldn't just limit adulterous women to be thinking just in terms of sexuality.
No.
Think of often throughout the book, wisdom is portrayed as a woman. and folly is a woman or women, right? So you think of not necessarily. So it does apply to who are you going to have a long-term relationship with? Yeah. A woman like this, but more broadly, live with wisdom in your life as if it was your girlfriend or your woman, and she will accompany you, and she will be this. Seek her out.
But getting back to like the picture that you're saying, that I love, you are absolutely right about the painting that has been laid out for us. So you've got you can see the happy man and woman with their children and their prosperous house, and they've earned it.
Yes.
No one's given it to them. No one can just take it away from them.
Yeah.
It's something they've built themselves in defiance of all of the temptations that would ruin it. And you can think of this in your own life. I mean, think of any soap opera you watch on TV. It's nothing but broken relationship. But this is a wonderful, like, realistic goal.
Yes.
For the average person to aim for. So look, you're not going to be the guy on TV, and you're not going to be a millionaire rock star, but you could be happy. You could have satisfaction, like a long-term satisfaction. It's not just the immediate sensory pleasures of the flesh. This is a sort of a genuine sort of state of affairs, which is a prolonged period of well-being.
Yes.
Where you feel secure in what you have. You have nice things, and the people around you love you.
Yeah. Another proverb says, better is a man with patience than a great warrior who takes the city. Isn't that interesting? Now, of course, if the city needs taking, in that rare occasion, you want the warrior.
Sure.
But in
most of the time,
grand scheme of life, a lot of people who have the warrior instinct have terrible existences because they don't have the patience. Go after the patience.
Almost every story of a warrior is them dying young.
I mean, how was the city built?
Yes.
It was. Yeah. Rome wasn't built in a day.
It's the man
Not a
of
biblical
patience,
quote, but a maxim of.
But it's true.
Yeah, of great importance. Like, let's go after things that are achievable, difficult, but bring great reward. I think one of the key starting points that we can do is to live in the wisdom of the ancient world. And I would argue, if you want to find a pre-compiled set of Proverbs, the book of Proverbs is a fantastic place to start.
But honestly, from just a purely human perspective, I think that's so good. That, like, it's so realistic, and it's within everyone's grasp. All it takes is for you to just work. Just work hard, be a good person. These things will choose the right partner, which, okay, these days very difficult. But you can end up with a very practical slice of heaven.
It compiles almost as an argument. Each of the Proverbs is so obvious when you hear it. It sticks together and you can't deny it. But each is just a brick building up this great picture, this way of life that's just undeniably good and powerful, and if you
healthy,
if you just spend the time to seek out the wisdom, you can become that picture that we see at the end, that thing that everybody ultimately wants, the happy ending from the fairy stories, don't they? Yeah. That's what we always imagine for our lives or want for our children's lives.
And I tell you, if there's one thing that 40-year-old women have taught us, is that it doesn't just drop into your lap.
Right.
And this is like so many articles of the 40-year-old woman going, but I've got a degree. I earn this much money. Yeah. I'm really desperate to get married and have children, and no man will date me. So why? Because you didn't commit when they wanted you to commit. Yes. You thought, well, I'm the center of the universe. I'll get it when I want it. It's like, no, you won't. You've got to commit to it and build towards it over a process of decades. Yeah. And so they're thinking, I want that at the very end there. Yeah. But they haven't done the things necessary to get it.
Yeah. And so certainly if you're listening to this and you're young, and I think we could consider, certainly if you're in your teenage years, going into your 20s.
We have many teenagers watching, but in the 20s, probably a fair number.
30s is young. I think, frankly, anything up to 60s is young.
I would say, personally, try and achieve the sort of beginning of this proverb in your 20s. and watch it mature into fruition into your late 30s.
Okay.
You know, it's still possible if you're in your 30s to get this and, you know, whatnot. But
if
try, you know.
At any point, if you've messed up your life, better to get started.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, there's no time like the present. Start unless it was yesterday, but it's too late for that. So get going now.
Yes. Yeah. And it's just understanding that time will be passing whether you're doing stuff with it or not.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you may feel hopeless. You may think there's no way out. But it's like how you see a tiny drip of water going across a landscape, and then over time it makes this giant valley, this chasm. It's like the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
You know, the most impressive feature that you can visit on the surface of the earth. And it's like just that slow, repetitive work can do things you won't believe.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. A mountain is climbed one step at a time.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.